Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we will be talking about those New York football Jets. Yes, they are taking on the Houston Texans this Thursday night, Halloween. Boy, oh boy. There's been some tricks and treats, definitely, when it comes to the New York football Jets. Mr. Dexter Henry is here with me. He's going to actually help me get into the season that those New York Jets have been having. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Mike. Always good to connect with you. Thank you for having me on the show. Glad to be here for the first time. It won't be the last, I'm sure. So thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's definitely a pleasure indeed. Hopefully, we'll come back under, happier circumstances for New York football teams. But this instance, we got to talk about these New York Jets. But we're going to get to them. But first, like every episode, we open up the show with the Get It Off Your Chest segment. And on this episode, we're going to keep it AFC South. Talk about a quarterback, a young quarterback. No, not Will Levis. We're talking about Anthony Richardson. Now, Anthony Richardson, let's just give you just a synopsis of his season right now. 958 yards passing, 4 TDs, 7 interceptions, 57.2 quarterback rating, and I'm pretty sure his throwing percentage is under 50%. I'm going to give you all that. So it's basically say it's not been a great season for him this year. Now, I will say some of his receivers and playmakers haven't necessarily done great things catching the football. The ball's hitting them in the hands, not caught it. So this game, this past week, they played against the Houston Texans. It's third quarter. He makes a play, he runs. Then he gives the universal signal for get me out of the game, which is taps himself on the helmet. So he actually sits out a play. And then he comes back. Listening to the commentary on the game, they're saying, "Hey, well, that the talent reporter is like, hey, well, nothing was wrong with him." And they just said, he just needed to take a break. And I'm sitting there like, okay, did I really just hear that? Then after the game, the reporter asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, man, I was just tired, man, and I had to take a break." I'm like, okay, I know you didn't just tell the whole world you basically was tired, man. No. That's something you keep in house. You don't say that on the air. Say you got the wind knocked out of you. Say something like that. But you don't say, I was tired, because then you bring more questions to yourself of, am I in shape? Did I do all the things I need to do to get prepared for this game? You bring all those questions about, and those are questions you don't need, especially when you're not having the best of seasons. Now, we can talk about the play calling of the Colts, which hasn't been great. We can talk about playmakers not making plays all the time, which hasn't been great either. But what you can't do is you can't bring the attention to you about, are you in shape? Are you doing the things you need to do? Especially when you're having the season you're having. Anthony Richardson, sometimes it's good just to be quiet. Quiet. Dexter, you got any thoughts on that one, man?
I do, and I would like to let the people know, Mike was recording a segment with me the other day previewing this Thursday night matchup that will drop later today. And Mike informed me, because I did not know about this, to let the listeners know. When Mike told me, I was like, what? And so, I read a little bit more and watched his comments after that. And, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. Look, it's one, say you got the wind knocked out of you, because anybody knows you could get a blow, you get 40 seconds to rest, right? A little bit more than that, obviously, with a play, about a minute to rest, and you'll be fine. But it's when you do that, it makes people question the conditioning, because that's the first thing I hear if you tell me you're tired in the middle of a game. You had to run for a little bit, and for your athleticism, you can use your legs a little bit. It sounds to me like you're not conditioning, and you're not conditioned well. Excuse me. And look, Anthony Richardson, I think, is a talented young quarterback when he was coming out. Obviously, we saw the great arm strength of him down in Florida. I think the thing we have to remember is he only played so many games. And I'll give the young man some grace. Somebody's got to pull him to the side and say, this is not what you can say. And if you aren't conditioned, if that is a problem, you need to fix that. Like, that needs to get better immediately, because there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on you being a starting quarterback here in the NFL. But for the Colts, Mike, and I know you watch them more closely than me, they have to figure this thing out. And I wonder if they're going to be patient with Anthony Richardson to figure this out. I know you talked to Warren Moon about him, and Warren Moon said he thought he could have benefited from sitting. I am of that school of thought a lot with these quarterbacks. So I agree with Warren Moon on that. But he's a guy where I'm wondering, is everything too fast for him right now? Does he need to sit back and watch a little bit more? He does need to mature. All young quarterbacks need to mature, even as talented as one that we're going to talk about today, like CJ Stroud, right? They still have a maturity process to go through, but can't be saying that. No, I'm with you. That's why you have to get this off your chest. You can't say this in the media. It's not a good look. I think he'll grow and learn from it. Is it the worst offense that any quarterback's ever made? No, but I think he'll be fine. But I think it's one he's got to realize that even if he felt that way, you gotta clean that up a little bit. That's all.
Exactly. And also, I didn't mention as well, Coach Shane Steichen said he would be reviewing all things to see about moving forward with Anthony Richardson as the starter potentially as well. So that's interesting talk coming after the comments from this game. Boy, oh boy. But, speaking of comments, there's been plenty of comments on the New York Jets this season. Boy, oh boy. There was so much fanfare, talked about how great this team was going to be. Aaron Rodgers is healthy this year. We're going to be better. Nope, not any better. 2-6, 5 straight losses, by the way, as well. So after all the fanfare of this team, Dexter, I mean, what can you just explain the expectations versus where they are now and just how the air has come out of the balloon for them?
Oh, I mean, the expectations before 2023 were high. If we go then, if people were talking, the Jets could win the Super Bowl with the defense they have, with the weapons they would have with Garrett Wilson for Aaron Rodgers. And then obviously those dreams and aspirations went up in flames when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles 4 plays into the season against the Buffalo Bills. Coming into this year, and look, you know what? Let me. I'm going to go back there and just go back for a second to 2023, because for me personally, I'm just going to say this. I know other people felt differently, other journalists, other fans. I did not like the idea of bringing in Aaron Rodgers. I think the Jets had, as a franchise, have never shown they can actually develop a franchise quarterback, and they were going with a quarterback that was aging, 39 at the time. I had questions and concerns about that. I think that is shown with the fact he got injured. And you don't blame him for getting injured, so I want to do that. But let's go to this year now, Mike. This year in 2024, the expectations were still high. People thought the Jets were definitely going to end their playoff drought, which is now the longest in North American professional sports. Definitely thought they could get to the playoffs. There was a lot of talk. Okay, they can get to the AFC Championship game. They could challenge the Chiefs. That has not happened. And a lot of that, the Jets, you just mentioned it, 2-6, lost 5 in a row. They haven't looked good. Aaron Rodgers in particular hasn't looked good. He's looked old. He's looked slow. He can't move if the pocket collapses around him. He hasn't been able to get it downfield well to his receivers. And some receivers' numbers, like Garrett Wilson, looked better with Zach Wilson, who was not good for the Jets, which is scary and speaks a lot of volumes to how the offense has regressed. The defense has regressed too, and I know we'll get into this as well. People will look and say, well, hey, Dex, the defense is 4th in yards allowed per game. But the problem with the defense is they haven't been able to get big stops when it matters, when it counts. You saw that on Sunday against the Patriots. So this Jets team is a mess right now. They fired Robert Saleh. Jeffrey Ulbrich is now the interim coach. So who are you blaming here? Aaron, they've run out of people to blame at this point. Aaron Rodgers has blamed folks. They brought in his friend Devontae Adams. He's got his weapons. They blame the coach. Joe Douglas, I think, has to take a lot of the blame here for assembling a roster now that is old. His misses in the draft years of 2020, 2021, big misses in those drafts. So there's a lot of blame. And now the Jet fan, I'll be honest with you, the Jet fan here in New York is angry. They're angry, Mike. They're angry. This is not what they expected. This is not what they expected. They thought this was going to be a season where they could contend. And look, last week I heard a lot of talk about this was the game they had to save their season against the Patriots. And now it's been extended to this Texans game. And, I'm not sure they can save their season against the Texans. Even though the Texans have some injury issues of their own, the expectations have changed here in New York, where the conversation is, well, if they lose this game to the Texans, and they approach the trade deadline on November 5th, should they start thinking about selling off some pieces? So that's where the New York Jets are right now.
Boy, oh boy, how a few wins change things. Yes. A few losses, I should say, change some things. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. It'd be funny if they actually added Devontae and then messed around and traded him. That would be funny if that actually happened. I don't think it'll happen, but it'd be funny. Now, hilarious. Very much. So, if you had to pinpoint one thing that has gone wrong, that has really been to the detriment of this team, what would you say it would be?
I mean, honestly, Mike, it really is banking on Aaron Rodgers and giving him the keys to this whole team and this whole franchise, and him not being the Aaron Rodgers that you thought you were getting. Now, I could say I was very skeptical of the move, more than some other people, because I just think, you're really rolling the dice with older quarterbacks if everything isn't set up around them perfectly. And the problem, I think, with Aaron Rodgers is the offensive line play has not been particularly good. And as somebody who's not really that mobile at this point right now, that becomes very evident, especially when you're facing good defenses that can rush the quarterback. And so it really starts and ends there with me. They banked on an old quarterback and it didn't work out. And I think that's a huge part of the reason they are where they are right now. I mean, they also, like I said, there also is some stuff. I would also put it a little bit on Joe Douglas. He is not hit in the draft. He has had misses in the draft that has caused them to have to then sign older players. And the biggest miss, obviously, is 2021 when he drafted Zach Wilson. And you don't hit there, because when you miss on that, that's what gets you to this point here where you then thought you had to bank on a 39-year-old quarterback at the time. And now that appears to have blown up in your face. And so it really starts to me with that. Also, I think it's, besides just banking on them, Mike, it's also Aaron Rodgers controlled everything within the team. When I said that, I mean it. They literally gave him the keys to the franchise, right? He wants Nathaniel Hackett here. Nathaniel Hackett is here. You're not going to be able to sell me on the fact that he didn't have any say in Robert Saleh being let go. Now, do I think Robert Saleh did an amazing job as a head coach? No, I do not. But I think it had more to do with the lack of play by these players on this team, particularly Aaron Rodgers, who is not playing up to his standard. And maybe we all, when I say we all, I mean the football community, the media, the fans, all of us together. I think that we just have to be like, Aaron Rodgers is not the same player anymore, man. And sometimes it's just that. It's not even that deep.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, he definitely has to accept a lot of the blame. I have one other question for you, then we're going to take a quick commercial break. Quick answer. Do you think Robert Saleh deserved to be fired by the Jets?
I didn't think so. In a real quick answer, I'd say no. I didn't think so. I don't think he was perfect. I thought this was your coach. You were riding out with him and Joe Douglas for the season. I thought they should have let him ride out the season. I think the problems that were going on in the organization, why this team is where they are even now, were beyond him at the time. I think it's proven that. They've lost 3 straight games since he's been fired. So it was not a Robert Saleh problem. So to answer your question in short, Mike, no, I don't think he should have been fired.
Yeah, I have those same thoughts as well. But hey, it is what it is. Jeff Ulrich is now the coach. The guy that really couldn't throw the flag out there. That was a fun and interesting piece of video right there. But yes, I wonder what interesting video they're going to put out for us this week. Yes, they play the Houston Texans on Thursday. We're going to get into the Jets offense first, the Texans defense. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break on touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are 2 of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO beard butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO beard butter and EBO beard wash.
All right, and we are back on Touring AFC South with your host, Mike Patton, here with Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports. Now, like I mentioned before the commercial break, the New York Jets offense versus the Texans defense. Now, I will say the Houston Texans defense has had a few chinks in the armor, but, the Jets offense hasn't necessarily been shining bright either. So, these two versus each other is going to be an interesting scenario. Now, of course, the Jets have a plethora of weapons. Of course, you got Davante Adams, you've got Garrett Wilson, you've got a lot of weapons, basically. But I think the most important one to me is Breece Hall, especially in this game, because, from time to time, do give up a good bit against the run. Do you think in this game, just for the pure fact of the offense of the Jets not necessarily running smooth, do you think he's vital for the Jets in this game, the most vital piece of those weapons?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny. I was saying that this last week going into their game against the Patriots. Running the ball, but also where I've been a little bit disappointed with is how he's been used in the offense. Mike, he's really valuable too as a pass catching option and just hasn't been doing that as well. I mean, the running for Breece Hall also, I think for most people, be disappointed in how the Jets have run the ball, period, this year. But we know how dangerous Breece Hall is. So he hasn't run the ball that well this season. And then also in the pass catching, where I thought they tried to get him a little bit more involved, especially last week against the Patriots, only one reception in the game. So I do think he's a vital piece, because I think if he is running the ball well, or they're able to use him out of the backfield, then I think that it really opens things up for the Jets offense. But here's the thing, man. A lot of that comes down to time, right? Aaron Rodgers getting that time from the offensive line to even get out those passes quickly. And then the offensive line creating those good holes for them to run. So if I'm the Texans, I'm not overlooking this, but there's nothing that the Jets offense has shown you in the last couple of weeks to say, hey, they could run the ball effectively. Hey, Breece Hall is a really great threat out of the backfield. Braylon Allen's been a better of that threat out the backfield to me this season than Breece Hall has been. So he's somebody I think the Texans have to watch for. But yeah, I agree. I do think you looking at it as Breece Hall being a X factor here, I do think is correct, because if they are able to get that running game going, then that opens up everything for the Jets offensively. And so I think the Texans are going to be very aware of that and very key on making sure they don't want to give the Jets any confidence, especially running the ball, because their confidence is very low right now, at least it appears, in terms of executing with the run game on the field.
Yeah, definitely. But of course, let's say the running game gets going, then Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking for those weapons outside. That would be Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, and Davante Adams. Now, I'm going to focus on Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams versus Derek Stingley Jr. Now, Derek Stingley Jr. is quietly one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. Of course, when he came out into the NFL, people were talking about his abilities. Didn't quite work out to start, but, since he's been under the tutelage of DeMeco Ryans, he's become one of the better corners in the NFL. I mean, I'm looking forward to that matchup. I'm wondering which one he's going to take. I'm just, are you looking forward to seeing just how well, or just that battle between Stingley and Adams and Stingley and Wilson goes on the field?
Yeah, I would assume he'd probably be more in Wilson. I would think he'd take most of his snaps against Wilson. But I am looking forward to that matchup, because Wilson had a pretty solid game against the Pats, and he and Rodgers have had a pretty good connection. The thing I think for Stingley in this matchup with is just like any other wide receiver with Garrett Wilson. Well, Wilson is really, you got to keep him in front of you, because if he gets past you, or he's able to make a good move with you once he gets the ball, that's where Wilson's dangerous. It's the yards after the catch where I think he's really dangerous, and why I think he'll be on him more than he would be on Stingley will be on him more than he'll be on Adams, because I just think he's more of a dangerous threat in terms of what he can do with the ball after he gets it than Adams is right now. But it's a matchup. Yeah, I'm always looking forward to. I love when you get a top receiver against a top corner. That's probably one of my favorite things to watch in football, if I'm being completely honest, because I'm always watching each possession. Okay, where's Stingley lining up? How are they motioning Wilson, to try to, disguise things in the offense to maybe, get the favorable matchups that they want. That's something I'm always looking at. So, yeah, that's a matchup I think that's going to be key in this game. Wilson's been he was hard on himself after the Pittsburgh game. He did play well. I'd say he was one of the offensive bright spots for the Jets in the game against the Patriots. So I think that's another key, is that the key I think for the Texans is, can they keep everything underneath? And that's another thing. Make the Jets beat you up top, because they have not shown that they can do this all season long. Aaron Rodgers has not shown that he could throw the deep ball. He's had some nice throws. He had a nice one to Garrett Wilson against the Patriots the other day. But if I'm the Texans, you can keep things underneath and you can stop that run game. You should be cooking with grease for that defense if you're playing when you're playing the Jets.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Another interesting thing is the Texans secondary isn't necessarily the greatest. You have Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward back there at safety. The opposite corner is a rookie, and Kamari Lassiter, which, that's going to be an interesting experience as well. Their secondary, definitely that's going to be something to watch, especially if the Jets O-line holds up, which gets me to my next one. The Jets all season up front have been pretty interesting. They added a couple guys, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, just to name a few. But they're facing Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., and D'Amico Autry, who just got back from suspension a week or two ago. How worried are you about this offensive line going against those guys that are very, very vicious when it comes to a pass rush?
Oh, I am absolutely worried. Absolutely worried, because we talk about this Jets offensive line. It really, they've looked good in spots, Mike, but when you're going against you, I think the word you just used was vicious. I think vicious is a great word here. When you're looking at this D line for the Texans, and I think you'll see it early on, if they're really able to bust pressure, and especially when they're not blitzing, and you're seeing that pocket collapse really quickly around Aaron Rodgers, and getting there and getting in his face and knocking him back, could be a long day. And we've seen that. We've seen this against some other teams. The Vikings were constantly in the face of Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers, who have a vicious defensive line as well too. And I think that's the scary part. This is why, listen, it's football. We always talk about this all the time. The battle in the trenches, that's what matters. It's going to really matter here. And I think it's another thing where, if you're a Texans fan, this is a place where you feel like you have an edge, and should feel like you have an edge, and should feel good about it. This is really where the game can be won. If you're getting pressure and Aaron Rodgers is not very mobile, and you're able to sack him, and you're forcing the Jets into third and long situations, this could be a long day for this Jets offense. It's already frustrated. We're already seeing some bad body language when things go that way. So yeah, if you're a Jets fan, I think you're absolutely terrified right now. You're hoping you see the best game from Tyron Smith that you've seen all season in terms of protection, in terms of Morgan Moses. You want to see that kind of protection to help. So we'll see. We'll see, but if I'm a Jets fan, I'm a little nervous about this matchup, because you'll know early, and if they're in that backfield early and sacking Rodgers, it could be a long day, my friend. Long day.
Definitely, indeed. We're gonna kind of flip it over. We're gonna talk the Jets defense versus the Texans offense, and there's gonna be some issues there, I think, for the Houston Texans. We're going to get into that and more, but we're going to take a quick commercial break on touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, Why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South with Mr. Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports. Now, like I said before the break, we got to talk about this Jets defense versus the Houston Texans offense, which I personally think are the strengths of both of these two teams. Of course, first thing we got to talk about is this wide receiver room for the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans have lost Nico Collins. He's been out. He's on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. He injured it, catching a long touchdown pass from C.J. Stroud and kind of, I guess, limping into the end zone. To add to that, Stephon Diggs, there's reports that he potentially has a torn ACL. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but they're doing MRIs there. And so more than likely he's going to be out this game, which leaves Tank Dell. So basically they're going to be Tank Dell and John Mechie III and a few other guys trying to get in there and be the guys for C.J. Stroud. How does this make you feel about the chances for the Jets to actually pull this game off with the Texans team that's injured and lost some of their weapons?
Yeah, I mean, it's a chance for the defense to bounce back just because they will not have to face receivers as scary as they would have, But I think recently, with the Texans, C.J. Stroud has had the poise to, move it around and find other guys and get them involved. Now, will he get the explosive plays that he would have? And now so much attention is on Tank Dell, right? And the one thing is the Jets corners are good, but the problem is they've also been banged up a little bit in the secondary. And so that's where things could even out a little bit in this contest, right, Mike? But I think the Jets have to be happy that they don't have to see Stephon Diggs, and hopefully everything is okay with him, and also Nico Collins in this matchup, because I think for Texans fans, I'm sure they were very excited about the prospects of those three guys and seeing them on the field together, and they only got to see it for a short period of time this season. So the Jets, they're catching a break with that. But like I said earlier, you could look at this Jets defense and you could think, and I think some people thought they would have some slippage this year, and they did. Like I said, they're fourth in yards allowed per game, which is not always a stat I think you got to hang your hat on when you're looking at a defense as well too, because it really comes down to, can you get stops when it matters, right? That's really what happens. And I think that even without Nico Collins and without Stephon Diggs, if the Texans are able to move the ball efficiently, and they also will get into, I'm sure, talk about the run game for the Texans as well too. If they're able to run the ball, and that's going to help a lot to open things up for Nico Collins, for Tank Dell, then I think that could bode well for them against a Jets defense that has not shown, at least as of late, particularly to get a stop when it counts. And I think that's where the Texans can have some confidence here. This Jets defense hasn't shown that. People have been able to move the ball on that. The Patriots were able to move the ball on them for a game-winning drive. The Patriots, guys, the Patriots, who are one of the worst teams in football. I mean, you probably could say the Jets are because they're also 2-6. But the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett, they moved the ball downfield in basically 2 minutes, just under 3 minutes, and were able to do that against the Jets defense. So you could tell me the Jets defense is all the talent on there. You can talk to me about Quentin Williams. You can talk to me about C.J. Mosley. You can talk to me about Sauce Gardner, who's not having a good year. DJ Reed. You can say all this stuff, but they have not shown me that they can get stops when it counts.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner's definitely had a few pass interference calls, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, where is the technique? Because that's what I'm a former college defensive back, and I'm watching him, and I'm like, okay, I understand the physical part of the game, but where is the technique where you flip your hips, turn around, stuff like that. He's just basically all into his guy, hands on him, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, in this NFL, you
Mike,
can't do that.
I'll mean to cut you off, Mike. Did you see the play on that final drive with the Patriots where Booty caught that big pass and had him turned around? And you played D-back, so I did not. But what did you think of his technique there? Because I was shocked for how skilled Sauce Gardner is to see him turned around that easily. Like, that was shocking to me.
I have not seen that play. I'm going to go back and take a look at it. However, it doesn't shock me that happened, because it just seems like he's not using the same type of technique this year, or his technique is not tightened up, I would say. Because of course, when you're playing bump and run or anything of that nature, the biggest thing is you got to stay on that person's hip. And of course, the little trick of the trade is you're smacking that guy's hand while he's running. Because if he's trying to run and lift his hand up, you do that, you kind of throw his running off. Also, it just seems like something is off, and he's a physical corner, but just something, his technique is off in terms of maybe his positioning or how he's kind of playing his bump and run coverage at time. Because usually with that, you don't. It seems like he's kind of a little bit opening the door just a little bit more with people, and when people are taking off, he abandons all his technique at that point. Which that's what I think is the biggest issue with him. I haven't seen that play. I'll check it out, but that's the biggest thing with him. He's getting caught in compromising positions and not trusting his technique. He's trusting his ability more than his actual technique, which you got to trust your ability, yes, but you also need your technique to go along with that. And that's what I think is the biggest issue he's having, to be honest.
Like that analysis. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, no problem at all. Now, I love watching defensive back play and kind of breaking it down, but I can't break it down to the normal way, to a normal human being playing the defensive back position. But in terms of NFL, because they're outstanding athletes, but I can give you the little nuances of it from time to time. Now, you mentioned it, the Texans run game. Joe Mixon, for the last 5 games, he has run for over 100 yards. Is this the Quinnen Williams game right here if they are to shut down the Texans run game? Because be honest, with the Texans run game, when Mixon is run the football, that makes things so much easier for CJ Stroud, especially with the problems they're having in the offensive line this year. So, is this the Quinnen Williams game, this game?
All right, you should have me now.
Yep, got you.
There you go. Sorry about that. My mic got knocked out for a second. You asked, should this be the Quinnen Williams game? And I said, I'll repeat, it better be. It better be for the Jets, right? I think that what you talked about with the Texans, from when I've watched them, the couple games I've watched with the Texans this season, the Texans, man, you're right. Things are so good when Joe Mixon is getting it done in the run game. That was a fantastic trade, bringing him over from Cincinnati and what he's done for the Texans. And I really believe that it's going to help this Texans team, especially now that they're down 2 of their top receivers. So this is only going to open it up. And if the Jets are going to have any chance, they're going to have to stop the run. So and who's the leader in stopping the run? That is Quinnen Williams, who's been great in his career against doing it. I won't call him bad this year, but I think he's just been average at that this year. And I think Quinnen Williams would even say that his play is subpar this year in terms of stopping the run. So if Quinnen Williams you see him in the mix and he's taking down Joe Mixon for losses or, minimal gains, then I think that bodes really well for the Jets, because I think that's priority number one for them, is going to be stopping the run of the Texans if they want any chance to win this game. That has to be the priority of this offense. The passing game shouldn't, and I'll use the key word is shouldn't, be as dynamic for the Texans. But again, the Jets have not shown me they could stop anybody right now. So who knows? Maybe some of the tertiary receivers for the Texans start getting off and getting loose. But I think if they're going to win this game, Quentin Williams has to be a big factor. They have to stop the run. Got to stop Joe Mixon.
Definitely. But of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about CJ Stroud. I mean, second year, people talk about sophomore slumps. He really hasn't had a sophomore slump. He's still cool, calm, collected back there, composed in the pocket. And, he's actually running just a little bit more this year, speaking to the offensive line issues that the Houston Texans are having. Now, down a couple wide receivers, is there still alert? Are the Jets still on alert for the things that CJ Stroud could do in the passing game? I know last year that he came in and they dominated him pretty much last year when they played. Now this year, do you think they're on alert maybe a little bit more? Maybe he's learned a few things from the game last year?
Oh, I think so. And that's one of the fascinating things about this matchup, right, for him, because he played the Jets last year as a young quarterback, and now in year two, what has he adjusted? I think CJ Stroud has been fine in his development in year two. At least it seems that way. I'm wondering what I'll be intrigued to see is if the Jets and Jeff Ulbrich are a little aggressive with him. Will they be as aggressive with him? That's one thing to watch. And then how does he handle that? If they send more men, if they send the blitz, how is he going to handle that and be patient and wait for things to develop? How can he stand in there and make those throws? That's something I'm definitely watching with CJ Stroud. But for a quarterback like him, which I think the thing that we'd probably say is most impressive about him is probably, beside the fact he can throw the ball really well, make all the throws, he's got fantastic poise. That's one of the things I've been really impressed with CJ Stroud. And so he hasn't seemed to be rattled. I'm not sure there's anything the Jets that'll throw at him that will rattle him. The Jets have good talent on defense on paper, but I don't think there's any looks that are going to rattle him. What I would also watch, Mike, is he going to trust those other receivers besides Tank Dell, right? Because now he's in the situation where no Stephon Diggs, no Nico Collins. Is he going to trust those other receivers? And I think that's a big thing for a quarterback like him in developing that poise and developing that composure, is that, okay, I don't have all my weapons and I'm playing a supposedly talented defense. How do I still get this done? The great ones find a way to get it done without all their weapons. We've seen Patrick Mahomes. I know nobody is Patrick Mahomes, but we've seen him be able to get this done. We've seen Lamar Jackson do it at times. For CJ Stroud to kind of move up into that class, this is going to be a good test for him at this point in his career, see how he gets it done. But I've been very impressed with the young man. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I think he's one of the bright young quarterbacks in the league. So I think he's handled everything well. But, yeah, I'm sure the Jets will try to rattle him early and try to throw some stuff at him because this is still year two. But the thing I always like with CJ Stroud is that composure. He hasn't shown me to be rattled too much thus far. So I think he can handle it pretty well.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting. You got the Houston Texans and you've got the New York Jets this Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. If you don't have it, go get it. If not, get the NFL app. Then you can watch the game there. I just threw some out there for people. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm pretty sure you're thinking maybe the Jets could pull it off, or do you think the Texans got this one? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I think this is going to be a close game. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Jets are going to fight for their season, but ultimately, I just think the Texans are better, and I think they'll be able to wreak havoc. It wouldn't shock me if the Texans got 4 or 5 sacks in this game. I'm going to go Texans in a close one, 27-24. I can see 27-24. I can see 30-27. I'm going to go Texans by field goal. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Jets are 1-point home favorites in this, if anybody cares about the betting. But I do find that interesting. They're 1-point favorites at home, despite everything that's been going on with them. But yeah, I like the Texans on the road. I like Texans on the road to get this done, Mike. I I think Texans are a good team. I think they're well coached. And I don't think they're going to sleep on this. I asked you in our conversation if they thought they would take this as a trap game. You said no, and I tend to agree with you. I think they're going to be. I think they know the Jets are going to fight. I think the Jets will fight, but I just think the Jets have too many issues right now. Too many issues.
Yeah, it's going to be a good, interesting one to watch.
Yes,
that'll be again. It's on Amazon Prime Thursday Night Football, but. We're not going to end the show. We're just talking football. We always end the show with a game. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. The questions could be coming from anywhere. Dexter, Henry, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to play this game. This game sounds fun. All right. I hope it's fun.
All right. First question here. New York by Ja Rule or Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z? Which song are you taking to represent New York?
Oh, I'm taking Empire State of Mind, Jay-Z. I'm a whole fan, so I gotta go with that. But I will say New York's Ja Rule's New York is an underrated New York anthem, man. But I gotta go Empire State of Mind.
Yeah, nobody really. All right. Yeah, nobody really talks about that one quite as much. New York by Ja Rule. They, I had to think about it too when I was thinking about, think about Empire State of Mind. Alrighty, having a little technical difficulties here, folks, but we're gonna.
But I got you now, Mike. You're good now. Yeah, I got you.
Dexter. All right. Okay. Let's see. The next question: Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Which QB do you like better for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
If you asked me this 4 weeks ago, I would have said Justin Fields, and I still like him to. And let me ask you, you said for the future? This is for the future of the Steelers, right? You asked me for the future of the Steelers?
Either future or right now, or whatever you want to say.
Okay. So for right now, I'm going to say Russell Wilson. And I think the reason I say that is you've seen the improvements with Russell Wilson coming in the passing game, how it's opened it up. Now, before that move was made by Mike Tomlin, I did not like it. I wanted him to stick with Justin Fields. I liked his threat of being able to run the ball. But Mike Tomlin, who's a great coach, doesn't make these moves out of nowhere. He knew and must have been seeing like, hey, we can open things up. And I have to give him credit. Russell Wilson's been good 2 games. Now, granted, he's played the Giants and the Jets. I will be fair. I will be fair about that. But he's been good. You see how it's opened up things for the offense a little bit more. And it's kind of good to see as a Steelers fan that to happen because while the defense has been great the last 2 to 3 seasons, the offense just hasn't been able to get the ball downfield, and now they're able to move the ball better. It looks good. I still would like to see what Justin Fields looks like for the Steelers long term, but yeah, right now I'm going Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's long gone to the days of Kenny Smallhands at quarterback for the Steelers.
Who I was rooting for. I'm a pick guy. I was rooting for Kenny Smallhands, but it didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, he definitely didn't help it work out because surely with the comments he said after.
He did not.
All right. Now, I'm going to go with the New York Knicks now. Patrick Ewing or Charles Oakley? Which one is more New York Knick to you?
These are good questions. These are good questions. I'm going to say Patrick Ewing. That's really tough because both of those guys had warrior mentalities. Charles Oakley was known for hustling for every ball, rebounds, diving into the stands. But Patrick Ewing, I just think he was, when I say more New York, to me personally, as somebody who grew up as a Knicks fan, he took everything on his shoulders. Everybody doesn't want to play here in New York and can't handle the pressure, but he took that and he wore it and he wanted it and he wanted to beat the Bulls really bad. And I think that's why he's forever beloved here. Despite never having won a title, he wanted it bad. And he really had a warrior mentality. He played hurt. He played with bad knees. He gave it his all. And so he's one of my favorite New York athletes of all time. So I got to go Patrick Ewing.
All right. Yeah. Charles Oakley, though, I will say when you saw him, you knew he meant business every time you saw him.
That man is not to be played with to this day. To this day, I
Right.
will say that. To this day, you don't want
Exactly.
those problems with Charles Oakley. Mm-mm.
Nope, not at all. All right, we're gonna go New York Jets. Keyshawn Johnson or Darrell Revis. I
Oh,
can
come
pronounce his
on
name.
now.
Good gracious. Which one is more Jet to you?
Oh, it's Darrell Revis. And I'm a little biased. That's my guy from Pitt. We kind of overlapped in our time at Pitt, and then I covered him a little bit with the Jets. Shout out to Darrell Revis. Yeah, just because Darrell Revis did it longer. He is the greatest cornerback in Jets history. He's one of the greatest cornerbacks in the NFL history. He's in the Jets Ring of Honor. He's a Hall of Famer. So yeah, I got to go Darrell Revis. Now I love Keyshawn as a kid back when I was a Jets fan, and was a great receiver. Give me the damn ball. Great book title. But no, I got to go Darrell Revis on there, and I'm a little Pitt biased. I feel like you could have really got me in the better question you could have asked me, Mike. Darrell Revis, Curtis Martin. Then I had two Pitt guys to pick against. That would have been tough. But
that would have been a good one.
I mean, good one. There you go.
All right. Okay. Last one on New York Giants. Phil Simms or Eli Manning? Which Giant quarterback are you taking?
These are good questions, man.
Both won 2 Super Bowls too.
I know. That's what I'm thinking about it. I'm going to say Phil Simms, man.
Okay.
And I don't really. The reason I'm going to say Phil Simms is Phil Simms was a part of some of the better Giants seasons of all time, where Eli's success was more postseason. There's one really good season that he had with the Giants. I think they finished 13-3 that year. And that was the year that Plaque shot himself in the leg and really kind of shot their chances of winning the Super Bowl. But Phil Simms had a little bit better regular season success combined with the postseason. So I'm going to give the edge to Phil Simms. I'll give him the edge.
Okay. Or if you're off the hot seat, 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice is over. And we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Dexter Henry. If you can, tell everyone where they can find you on social media and all the things you have going on.
Yeah, everybody can find me on social media at DHenryTV. Easy way to find me on the New York Post Sports and SNY TV YouTube channels as well. You can catch me as the lead host of Urban Fitness Extreme on Fox Sports. Was doing that this summer. We have the championship episode coming up on November 10th on Fox Sports, so check that out. Yeah, and you can always catch me, Mike. He's always on with me whenever we talk about the AFC South teams playing any of the New York teams. You can catch Mike on with me. He's always my guy to do that. So, Mike, I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. I love your show. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for coming on, creating the time to talk a little New York Jets with me. Like I said before, as we started the show, we wish it was in better graces to talk of the New York Jets,
Yes.
But hey, it is what it is. And, New York football is not necessarily doing great this year. It is what it is. But, of course, thank you for coming on. Of course, if you don't know, I am the host of Touring the AFC South. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82. Of course, the artist formerly known as Twitter. That's Word to Prince, one of the greatest artists of all time. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at THA, not THE, _general_MP. You can find Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And you can also find it on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. I want to thank you all again for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.